You're 60 years old with 1.2 million saved, and you're lying awake at night wondering if this is enough to retire on. You've done everything right. You maxed out your 401k. You live below your means. You watched your balance grow for decades. And now that retirement is staring you in the face, you're terrified that one wrong move can unravel everything that you built. The math that got you to $1.2 million is completely different than the math that will make it last. Hey, I'm Jason Solomon. I've spent years, 20 plus years, helping clients in this position how to figure out whether their number is enough or whether there are hidden risks in the plan that they haven't identified yet. Today, I want to show you something that's not in a retirement calculator. There's two completely different versions of $1.2 million that play out for a 60-year-old. In one version, you retire comfortably and the money outlasts you. In the other, you hit serious trouble in your late 70s. It's not because you spent recklessly, but because of the three hidden dangers that people never see coming. I'm going to show you both versions and what separates them. Let me start with the math that most people get wrong. 4% of 1.2 million is 48,000. Add Social Security, maybe $24,000 or $30,000 a year, and you're looking at somewhere between 72 and 78,000 a year. Sounds pretty reasonable, but here's where the assumptions start to become more complicated. That number is before taxes. Every dollar you pull from a traditional 401k or IRA is taxable, and the money that hits your bank is already less than what you calculated. That's before we get into real problems. So the original 4% rule dates back to the 1990s using historical market assumptions. They don't fully reflect today's market environment. Interest rates have changed, inflation patterns have changed, and market valuations have changed dramatically. Here's the part that nobody talks about. The rule assumes that you spend the exact same inflation-adjusted amount every single year for 3 decades. That's usually not how it plays out in retirement. Research from David Blanchett at Morningstar found that real retirement spending follows what he calls the retirement spending smile. You spend more in your early 60s, when you're healthy, when you're active, when you're traveling, when you're doing a lot of the things that you love to do. And then in your 70s, spending starts to slow down. It rises again in your 80s and 90s. Why does it rise in your final decade? Healthcare. The traditional 4% rule framework does not fully account for all these spending dynamics. And the real question is not whether you can withdraw 4% forever. It's whether your portfolio can survive your actual spending curve across different market conditions. The answer depends almost entirely on which version of retirement you're going to walk into. Let me show you 2 different versions of what 1.2 million looks like at 60. And pay close attention because the difference is not how much was saved. It's what happens in the first 5 years. In version 1, you retire at 62, you claim Social Security early at $1,800 a month, you spend $6,500 a month total, and you invest in a balanced 60-40 portfolio. You withdraw the rest from your savings. So you're pulling out about $56,000 a year from your portfolio on top of Social Security. That's a 4.7% withdrawal rate. One difficult market period in years 1 through 5, and this could put serious pressure on the plan, as early as your mid-70s. In version 2, you wait until 67 to claim Social Security. Your benefit's $2,400 a month. Maybe you work part-time for a few years in an easy job and make $30,000. And since you're working, you're only spending about $5,500 a month until you're finally fully retired. Since your portfolio barely gets touched in your early 60s, by the time you fully retire, you're going to have most of that 1.2 million intact and maybe even more. Social Security is going to cover most of your expenses. Now your withdrawal rate drops to around 3%. Historically, this type of approach holds up far better across the range of market environments. Not really surprising, right? The same $1.2 million ends up with completely different outcomes. The entire gap comes down to how you sequence the first 5 to 7 years. Here's the part that most people never see. Most people don't see 3 hidden dangers lurking inside the plan that have nothing to do with your investment choices. Most retirement calculators will never show them to you. So now, if you're watching this and you're realizing you have never actually stress tested what happens to your portfolio if the market drops by 30% in the first few years, and you're pulling $50,000 a year, and you're not sure whether you're in version 1 or version 2 of this plan, you're exactly where many of my clients are when they come to me for the first time. This is the kind of analysis we're going to run for you. Why? Because even though many people have recency bias and think a 30% drawdown is impossible, especially one that doesn't recover for 5 years. It's happened more than once in history, and you need to be prepared for the worst. If you want to see what your specific numbers look like under real pressure, the link's in the description below to book a time with me directly. Now let me show you 3 things that will make or break either version of your plan. The first hidden danger is sequence of return risk. If the market drops 30% in your first 2 years of retirement while you're simultaneously drawing $50,000 a year, you're not just down 30%, you're down 30% plus the withdrawals. Your portfolio is going to require significantly more time to recover. You're selling shares at the worst possible time to fund your lifestyle. Here's what makes this so counterintuitive. A retiree who experiences poor returns early in retirement may face significantly more pressure on the portfolio than someone who experiences those same returns later. It's the same average return, completely different outcome. The sequence of returns matters as much as the total. The next danger that we're going to talk about is healthcare costs, the ones that hit you before you get on to Medicare. So if you're 60 years old, you've got to wait 5 years before Medicare kicks in at 65. Under the current law, the enhanced ACA subsidies that help lower premiums for many retirees is scheduled to go away. It's not going to go away completely, but the income that's impacted is going to change. For a couple in their early 60s, buying unsubsidized coverage in the marketplace, that could mean $3,200 a month or more, depending on your state and the coverage level you're looking for. That's $38,000 to $44,000 a year before you add deductibles, out-of-pocket costs, and prescriptions. If your household income stays below about $84,000, you still might qualify for those subsidies. But for many people that are drawing from a $1.2 million portfolio, those withdrawals could push you above the threshold and completely eliminate your eligibility. Did your retirement plan include any of this? Most of them don't. And if the first 2 dangers surprise you, then the third's probably going to surprise you too. It's the tax trap that you built yourself. Most people retiring with $1.2 million, most of it's in pre-tax accounts like 401ks and IRAs. Every dollar that you withdraw is taxed ordinary income. So if you're pulling $50,000 from your IRA and collecting $28,000 in Social Security, a huge portion of that Social Security may become taxable too. Under current rules, if your combined income exceeds certain thresholds, 85% of your Social Security benefits are subject to federal tax. So your effective tax rate climbs higher than maybe you planned, and it's not because you spent more money, it's because the structure of your own accounts is creating additional tax complexity. You spent decades building this nest egg. One of the challenges that you might have is that you accidentally built this huge tax trap. The earlier that you identify these tax issues, the more flexibility you may have to address them. Here's 4 things that you need to get right. The first one is knowing your real monthly spending number. Not your budget, not what you plan to spend. Get the real numbers. Pull up the last 12 months of the bank and credit card statements and add everything up. Insurance, property taxes, gifts, travel, all those subscriptions that you forgot about. It's so common for retirees getting ready to retire to underestimate this number. The gap between what you thought you spent and what you actually spent puts a ton of pressure on your retirement plan over time. Second thing you need to do is map your income sources by age. Social Security, pension, rental income, part-time work. Build a timeline showing what money comes in at 62, what comes in at 65, 67, and so on. This is going to help determine what your gap years are. And those are the years when your portfolio is going to have to carry all the weight alone with no backup. Those are the years when retirement plans are most vulnerable. Identify them now so the financial portion of your retirement is smooth. The third thing is stress testing the first 5 years before they happen. Run a scenario that you don't want to happen. 20%, 30% down and stays flat for 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4 years. If the first 5 years go poorly and your withdrawal rate stays high, a plan that looks so good on paper can become much more vulnerable. This is not about pessimism. It's about knowing that your plan can handle the version of reality that shows up. The fourth is analyzing your tax brackets now, long before you retire. How much sits in pre-tax versus Roth versus taxable? This mix determines your flexibility. If everything's in pre-tax accounts, you have far less control over your tax situation, far less room to maneuver when required minimum distributions start kicking out. 1.2 million may be more than enough for some retirees, but for others, it may not support their lifestyle. The difference difference doesn't usually come down to how much was saved and accumulated. It comes down to when you took Social Security, how you sequence your withdrawals, whether you do Roth conversions while you still can if they make sense, how you manage your healthcare costs before Medicare, and whether you stress test your plan before the first bad year hits you in the face. At the beginning of this video, you were lying awake wondering if the number was enough. Well, here's the honest answer. Whether 1.2 million lasts your entire retirement depends mostly on the decisions you're about to make. It's not on the balance in your account. Some of the people who feel most confident in retirement are not necessarily the ones with the biggest portfolios. They're the ones who stopped wondering and built a plan that works even when things go wrong. If you want to learn more about the kinds of retirement risks and planning strategies that we discussed today, I put a link below where you can download our free retirement guide. If you want to know whether your money is actually going to last, not based on a rule of thumb, but based on your specific spending, your Social Security options, your tax situation, and your real healthcare costs, then book a time with me and we'll build out your personal stress test together. The links are in the description below. Take care and we'll see you in the next video.